Welcome. If you're new to language coaching, you're trying to figure out what kind of skills you want to add to your existing skill set, you want to add a few new techniques and tools to your existing expertise, you're at the right place. This is our 5-part mini series on what language coaching is. You can see the title, What is Language Coaching? And we're going to start with the basics, clarifying basics. What is language coaching? How is it, something that you can apply to the work that you do to support your learners? I'm going to be talking you through a couple of the basics, and I'm Gabriella Kovács. I'm co-founder of the International Language Coaching Association, or as we fondly call it, ILCA. Do visit our website on ilcaglobal.com, and we're going to delve into what we have to offer here in this short conversation. We're starting with the definition, right? So what language coaching is, it's not just about doing something different to teaching. It's a process, as you can see here, that helps the acquisition of the language. And at the same time, we're also focusing on communication skills, a better understanding of how we communicate and what we need to do if we want to be better language learners, more aware, and what we can do as coaches to support our learners to reach their own goals. What is important is that we're working in partnership with our clients, our learners. We also call them coachees, clients, and that they're responsible for the work that they put into the process in their role as learners. And we're also responsible as coaches for doing the best we can to support them, for them to reach their goals, right? And so they're going to be much more in control of what they're doing in their learning process. And we're much more in a supportive, guiding, facilitative role as coaches to help them reach their goals. And I keep coming back to reaching their goals, because it's not what I think they need, but what they figure out in the process, what they actually need, and that's going to help them with their own motivation. So moving on, it's much more than just looking at language from a linguistic perspective. It's going to be trying to uncover what they actually want, so their goals, and looking at why they want to be learning something. So we're uncovering their own intrinsic motivation. We're not telling them what they need, okay? Very often with teaching, we're looking at it as a cognitive package, a knowledge-based skill set. And as teachers, we want to impart knowledge, right? We want the learner to know something that we know, and we're giving it to them, helping them to acquire it. With coaching, it's much more about empowering them, helping them lead in the process. Now, this might sound a bit weird, a bit fishy, a bit contradictory to things that you've learned in your ESL, your CELTA Delta, wherever you may have gotten your, BD, etc. But let's just have a look at a couple of ways that you can start thinking with a coaching mindset, okay? So small bits and pieces that are going to help you to apply language coaching. Okay, so one thing is that you're holding the space, right? So you're going to be looking at ways to work with a very ethical framework. You have to be in a sort of confidential process with the client, okay? You're going to respect them, and there are boundaries which you do not move beyond. You do not give advice when you're coaching. And as teachers, as educators, as counselors, whatever background you might be coming from, this might sound very restrictive. On the one hand, it is restrictive. On the other hand, it actually opens up loads of possibilities for ways that you can partner with your client, with your learner, for them to understand themselves as learners, to be much more present with them, and help them come to terms with what is actually going on for them, what is perhaps holding them back in the learning process. So basically, we offer a psychologically safe space for them to think, to figure out what's going on for them, and to help them move on, identify their goals, figure out how they want to reach those goals, and then perhaps in a dual role of coach and trainer teacher, we're going to help them to achieve those goals. Okay, so basically that's it. We try to reduce the stress, pressure of trying to be perfect, trying to be the language learner, the ideal language learner. There's no such thing. I think people who have been working as teachers, educators for a long time realize that every single person has a different approach to the learning process, and coaching can help to bring us to be on the same page, to have a similar understanding of what is needed for that specific process to work in an ideal way. We're going to be doing in coaching a lot of questioning. We ask a lot of questions, but not questions that we know the answer to, and that's kind of a tricky bit. We're going to be asking open-ended questions, which means that we want the learner to come up with answers that to questions that perhaps they haven't ever been asked, and we're moving much more into focus on the process instead of the content of language as such, language learning. We're looking into ways that we can summarize the process as we are moving along, and providing feedback, immediate feedback, which is very valuable for the learner to, again, come to terms with who they are, their own learner selves, right? And these insights are going to lead to, I'd say, a reckoning of what they actually need, what they want to be moving on with. We're going to help them to move forward. We're not reflecting on the past, although obviously certain elements will come up. We're looking at, I want to be a better language learner, or I want to be at B2 level, or I want to pass an exam, to being much more specific. And for that, there's a lot of effort put into the work of, sort of discovering what's going on. And we work with accountability. The client is accountable for the process that they're making, and we help them to be committed in a fair way. And we're also looking at how they can remain in the driver's seat. I like that analogy. I think it kind of shows us that we're not driving them somewhere. We're not the taxi driver. We want them to be in the driver's seat, and we're just going to be alongside them and say, okay, so where do you see you want to go? There's a crossroads there. Do you want to turn right or left, depending on what they want? Okay, so that's much more the sort of role that we have and the learner has. Being flexible, being adaptable. There's so much talk about that lately. We're living in a VUCA world. We're living in a world where everything is becoming much more difficult to navigate, and a coach can help you with that. You can move away from, okay, we're going to go from A to Z, and that's what we're going to follow, to, okay, we're starting with A. Where do you want to continue? What's going on? And we're going to be looking at setting up milestones, identifying successes much earlier, not just when they pass an exam or when a grade has been given, or there's a high percentage, a good mark for a certain accomplishment, but much earlier, so that the learner's self-efficacy is going to be, boosted, powered by the work that we're doing together. Okay. So how is it different? Okay, so if we're looking at language coaching, it's something that focuses holistically. on the person in front of us, whether it's a class or just an individual one-to-one, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so you're going to be working to support them in believing themselves, to work with their own strengths, identifying them, of course, and then getting to grips with an action plan. Okay, basically that's it. It looks very easy, straightforward, putting it like that, but it's actually not that very easy. What happens is that we're looking at a process where the learner is doing most of the talking, which means the input is not coming directly from us, but it's the learner coming up with ideas, thinking out loud or journaling or just reflecting on a number of things. It seems very psychological, it is, but it's pretty straightforward. It's nothing which somebody would specifically need a degree in psychology or psychotherapy. Okay, so it's not therapy. We're not trying to analyze what happened in the past and why it happened. We're looking at where we are now and how we can move forward, okay, which means that we listen very carefully as coaches. It's one of the key skills that we possess, that we learn over time, how to do active listening, something called active listening. When can we apply teaching or coaching? A number of situations. Primarily, coaching is going to be our key working mode. If you can see things on the column on the right, so feeling stuck, low self-esteem, right? You're demotivated, your learner is not performing the way that you feel potentially they could be, then they don't really have goals, they're sort of lost, they have trust issues, you know, so a number of things which are usually red flags for a teacher, and they try to, you know, push it through and they're not getting the results. Whereas if you look at the column on the other side where progress is made, the confidence is there for the learner, they're really motivated, they're getting their goals clear, they're performing well, etc. You see all those up to number 12. That's where you might need a little bit of coaching at the beginning, at the end, here and there, a few, you know, open questions, but primarily teaching is fine. And it's very important to be able to identify when you're using each one, which one is going to bring the results, yield results, which are satisfying for both you as an educator and the learner. So that's all in this part. We're an association that works with teachers from all over the globe, and we look at a number of ways that we can support teacher organizations. Maybe you know of an organization that could get in touch with us. Do click on our website, write us an email, and we'll be very happy to get in touch. Thank you very much for listening, and that's all from me now. Bye.